Welcome back. I have the Imalent DM21T torch in for testing. This is slightly different to most torches that I've tried. It's a variable power output, and this was sent in via Gearbest for a review. Looking at the body of the torch, it's a satin finish. You'll notice around the head has some slightly unusual markings and engravings, quite a bit of knurling. There's a space for a clip, but you don't get a clip supplied with this torch for some reason. Not exactly sure what it is. It's an extra that you can buy. On the base we have the switch, power switch, and the micro USB cover. Now this cover is fairly shallow. It doesn't stay in place particularly well. That was an observation that I noted quite early on. Unscrew the back. Decent spring with this. There's the protector for the battery, and the cell is rated to 2600 milliamps an hour, and it's a button top cell, so you can't use flat top cells with this torch. I'll run that through my battery tester later on. Screw that back up. There's no electronic lockout on this particular model, so you'll have to unscrew the base cap to do that. Now the power, just simply press it on and you can adjust the output with the rotary switch. You'll notice that there is a bit of flickering. That is PWM, that's pulse wave modulation. It's not surprising to see that, and if you are quite quick at turning the dial, it also lags a little bit. During normal use it's not a huge issue. If you push and hold, you enter the strobe. I quite like the design of the body in terms of the appearance and the grip. It also feels quite nicely made. XPL Hi LED, and we have quite a deep smooth reflector. We have two tints with this. I'm looking at the warm one, by the way. In terms of the fit and feel in the hand, it's quite nice. I quite like it. I'm a bit surprised you don't get a clip supplied with this. You also can't attach a strap to the normal position because there's nowhere to put it. The switch itself feels okay for the power control. It's a little bit gritty on the rotary switch though. I'm surprised at that. I was expecting more resistance. It's quite easy to turn. Look at the holster that's supplied, a bit different from the normal type that you get, but it's actually quite nice quality. Velcro on the back and on the front, just fit the torch to it. It's more of a slimmer holster than most that I've looked at, but I quite like that part of the torch. We'll scan through the box quickly just to give you an overview of that. The rotary switch is obviously the main appeal with this. Now we have a power rating, they say from 1000 down to 30, but this is the warm white tint, so usually they're a little bit lower in power. Have the micro USB cable and two spare O-rings, and just an overview on the back section giving you some more details. Quick look at the user manual. It's fairly well laid out. There's no particular problems with it. I found it easy enough to follow. Covers the basic operation fairly well. But you'll notice there is another section which does have, there's an optional holster, sort of a plastic belt clip holster that you can get. I haven't used it, I haven't tried it, and it covers the operation of that. You can evidently charge the torch in that. That's an extra that's available for this particular model. Can't comment on that because I just haven't used it. So thoughts so far as the build, pretty good, quite happy apart from that USB cover. Personally would have just moved that somewhere else. I don't think that's the best position for it. That's my own opinion. You can remove the head if you want. For some reason they've missed off the T on the Imalent. Perhaps the biggest complaint I have is that you can't base stand it because of that the port cover and the switch, so it just wobbles around, and that's a bit disappointing in that regard. That was a sound recording of the rotary switch. As you can hear, there is a bit of metal on metal contact. I'm not exactly sure why that is. What I'm doing now is just trying to go through the rotary switch to show you the power adjustment, and it's not entirely smooth, particularly at the bottom end. You can see it jumping around slightly, and I'm trying to move it as slowly as possible. Onto the battery, it did well. It came in above the specification, so just under 2800 milliamps an hour, and charging speeds were also above average. We went over the 1 amp mark, which is very good for a torch. When it's finished, the red LED that flashes turns to green. So there's no complaints on the charging front. I did do a waterproof test in a bucket of water for half an hour and it did pass, but do be careful with that micro USB cover. It is quite easy to dislodge. It doesn't stay in place particularly well, so watch out for that one area. This is my normal test at around about 90 to 100 feet, and I'm gradually going up through the power settings on the Imalent. Now, as this is the warm white tint, you'll see that the top power output is definitely a bit below the 1000 lumen, and I'll show that with you on the Rofis TR20. That's rated to 1100 lumens with a cool white tint. And once I've taken that up to the top power setting, you'll see that there is certainly a difference right up to the turbo level between that and the Imalent. I don't have the cool white Imalent to test, so I can't say whether there's a difference. I'd imagine that's probably down to the tint. Onto the beam pattern there, bit of focus in the middle, and I'm outside now, just gradually ramping up. You'll see a bit of the PWM, the lines on the lower levels, and that disappears once you've gone up to the highest level. Whether that's something that will bother you, I'm not sure, but it's something which I want to mention because it's a review. A bit narrower on the field of view with this one, so it has a bit of range, and up close we'll change the settings down again. You can see it's jumping a little bit with the lower power settings. Now it's rated to 30 lumens at the lowest level. That's more like 10 lumens, particularly on this one compared to other torches that I've tested. At least visually that's how I'm comparing it, and the telephoto tests. Personally, I like the tint with this. It's not quite as powerful as some of the other torches that I've tried, but I'm not sure that's a huge issue. And I'll gradually go up the power levels again. Once you get from the lowest level, from the mid to the high, it's actually quite smooth, the transition. It's just at the lowest point. I'm not sure whether that's my particular copy, but it's something which did stand out a little bit. I'm just outside now experimenting with the variable power. Is it something which is going to be useful? Potentially yes. I have used a few torches where I can say, look, you know, I wish that didn't have such a bigger step, but it's really down to you to decide whether that's a big feature for you. At the lowest setting again, as I said, I reckon it's around about 10 lumens. There's no moonlight mode with this particular torch, which is a shame. That's something I would like to have seen. And we're on to the strobe setting now. Quite a fast strobe, faster than most of the torches that I have tested. Onto the range test on the roof, and I'm just ramping up the power level. Range on this is pretty good. It's a bit more focused. Doesn't quite have the power of some of the other torches, the 18650s that I've tried. Whilst I do some more beam shots outside, you can see different power levels and ranges. I'll talk about the Imalent and how I feel about it. This is a review. Anything that comes through the door, I've basically said to anybody that supplied a product to me, I'll say what I want to say. It's just my opinion. You might not necessarily agree with it, but I've tested quite a few torches so far, and it's a test. So the idea of that is that I tell you what I think's good and what isn't good. This is a torch which to me on paper looked much more exciting and much more interesting. Not to say that it's a bad torch, because I don't think that it is. There are some good ideas here, and I quite like the design and build, apart from that micro USB port cover, which I think isn't particularly good. It really should be a better design on that. There are also a few other areas which bothered me a bit. You don't get a clip included with this. That might not affect your purchasing decision. It might not be a problem for you, and the PWM as well. But personally, that rotary switch should have more resistance in my mind, and it could be a lot smoother. It's not as smooth as I expected, and I really find it quite easy to turn it, which is a problem because I can sometimes change the power level when I don't want to. But there are some good things here. The tint's quite nice. The variable power could be of some use to you, and you might find this on a blowout deal. I'll put the links below. If so, those issues may not affect you, but I wanted to tell you how I felt about the torch. If you've used this particular torch, do let me know what you think about it. Thanks for watching the video, and I will catch up with you very shortly.